Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. We're out in the greenhouse today for what is going to be the final harvest of our summer plants.
Looking at the forecast, it looks like not this weekend, but the end of next week is going to be our first hard frost. And because we have the time right now and the next week after this is going to be so busy, we're actually going to be doing our final harvest here in the greenhouse before winter comes and kills all the plants.
Right. Now, this is kind of a bittersweet moment every year. On one hand, it's sad that things like tomato season are going to be coming to an end. But on the other hand, we feel like it's the Lord's way every year of telling us it's time to just take a little break, slow down a little bit, and prepare for winter.
Now, the plants that are in here, we planted in March or April or something. So they have had a long, productive, successful growing season. And it really is just kind of time for them to be done. They're looking shabby, they're looking tired, and they are ready to go.
Some things we're even on a second planting of already for this year. We have some green beans that are a second planting, cucumbers, some of the tomatoes.
Zucchini.
So things have really had a good time to grow here in the greenhouse. And like they say, all good things must come to an end.
So today we're going to do a little review of what is in here and how well it is done over the summer. But we are going to be doing a final harvest like we already said, and we're going to be pulling all of the plants, well, most of the plants, I guess, to get them ready for spring planting so that the soil and everything can rest over the winter.
There are just a couple things that we've decided we're going to leave and attempt to cover. The way that the weather normally works here in Missouri is around this time of year we'll get our first frost and it will kill back all of those summer plants. But then there's a lot of times where after that we'll have another maybe 2 or 3 weeks where we won't get a frost again. So there are some things that are still doing really well, like our cucumbers that we just planted a month or so ago. They're producing, they're flowering, and so I think we're going to leave those for right now, and we're going to just cover them when the frost comes. There's still a chance, even being covered, that a frost will kill those cucumbers, but there's always that chance that they might make it through, and if they do, we might get another few weeks out of those before they'll really die back for the winter.
Now, some of the plants, especially like the peppers, they have a really big harvest coming as their final harvest. I'm going to be busy in the kitchen afterwards preserving them, but I am planning to share some with the families at church as well. So, you know, these plants have been super productive. They have not been giving up. The peppers and the tomatoes are actually flowering again, so they would keep going, but it's just not that time of the year for us here in southern Missouri. It's time to wrap it up.
Right. And like Sarah kind of touched on in the last video, you know, some of you have suggested that we try to overwinter some of our peppers. You guys, look at these pepper plants. They are enormous. They do this well every year from seed because we're able to start really early. We have a super long growing season here, and even though we start every year from seed, we get more peppers than we can ever know what to do with. So there's really no need here in our environment to overwinter them and get a jump start on next season. We'll get a jump start on next season by starting our seeds in like February and then being able to plant in the greenhouse early.
So you guys, let's get started. We have a beautiful day. It's actually pretty warm today.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Today is almost 80 degrees. And at the end of the week or beginning of next week, the highs are like in the 40s.
So we're going to take advantage of this gorgeous sunny day and get this project knocked out. Well, we're going to start off with the peppers today, and we're going to work first with the sweet peppers. Now, we have several varieties of sweet peppers, and all of them did fantastic. First up here are the lipstick peppers. We were thinking that these peppers were going to end up being the size of jalapeno peppers, but they really surprised us. These are actually the smallest of the lipstick peppers that we had this year. They actually ended up being pretty large. But one thing that shocked me about the lipstick peppers is that their flesh was very thick. Now, this was the first time we'd ever grown the lipstick peppers. So I ended up treating them very similarly to the Ajvarsky peppers, which are the red roasting pepper that I grow every year, and they were fantastic. So we're going to harvest all of the lipstick peppers Moving on here, we have the jalapeno peppers. Jalapenos are a jalapeno that are not hot at all. They have the flavor of a jalapeno, but they have no spice to them. They did pretty well. This year we only planted 4 plants because we didn't need many of them, but we are going to be harvesting all of those. Next up were 2 different varieties of bell peppers. We grew the Ozark giant bell pepper and the California Wonder. And I think overall they did the same as far as production quantity and quality. They both did very well, and we're going to be harvesting a bunch of them. They put on just an amazing second crop of peppers. These plants are just loaded with peppers, and I would say these are really nice size for end of the season. And then the last variety of sweet peppers that we're going to be harvesting are the Ajvarski peppers, which overall are my favorite pepper on the planet. There are not a bunch of them because I've done so much harvesting and preserving this year. But you can see the shape of them. They normally are about 2 or 3 times that size. They're just a really wonderful roasting pepper with really nice thick flesh. Here's a red one here, but honestly, guys, this is a very small example of what these Ajvarskis look like. So that's what we're going to start with because all the other peppers after this are spicy. So we're going to get through this harvest of the sweet peppers. We're going to show you and share with you the quantity that we harvested today, and then we'll move on to the spicy peppers.
Well, this is what we got for the sweet peppers. You guys, I would say that this is a great final harvest. These 2 baskets here are a mix of the lipstick, the Ajvarski, and the bell peppers. And then this basket here, this is just what was left of the jalapenos. Not a whole lot of those left, but plenty of everything else.
So the peppers that are left to be picked are all of the spicy varieties. We're going to move on to those, but first we want to take out and cut down all of these pepper plants from the sweet peppers so we can just kind of move on. We can feel like we're making progress.
Right. It's a mental thing. It
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're making some progress.
Yeah, so let's do that first and then we'll move on to the spicy peppers.
All of those plants are pulled, so it's time to move on to the spicy peppers. This year we grew 3 different varieties of spicy peppers. We're going to start here at the front with the Craig's Grande jalapenos. This is the variety of jalapenos that we grow every single year. We love them. They do really well. After that, we have a pepper. The next 2 are new ones that we did this year for the first time. We have one called Sugar Rush Peach, which are these peach colored peppers, and these things are spicy. They are really spicy, but they have really good flavor as well. We've made a bunch of hot sauce out of these. And then the next ones up are called ají or nacho. They are a Peruvian spicy pepper. They're not quite as spicy as the Sugar Rush Peach, but they are pretty darn spicy as well. But these have actually made my favorite hot sauce of the year. Sarah's made quite a bit of this already, and I absolutely love it. We've also freeze-dried a lot of these and turned them into just spicy pepper powder that we can put on things. What I like to do is put a few shakes of that in some barbecue sauce. Oh, it makes it so good. All right, so we are going to move on to picking all of these, and we'll show you when we're done.
Well, we've harvested all the rest of the spicy peppers, and man, that is a lot of spicy peppers.
That is.
Especially considering how small they are.
Right.
That is a lot. I would say this is probably 3/4 of a bushel of tiny spicy peppers.
Right.
So that'll be fun to get these into the freeze dryer and turn them into powder or whatever it is that I end up doing with some of them.
These are probably also varieties that we won't need to grow again for a couple of years because
Right.
this is going to provide us with so much. So I think next year might be kind of an experimental spicy pepper year. So we might need some suggestions from you guys what spicy peppers we should try next year.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We also tore out all of the plants of the
Right.
peppers. So that was a big job, good to be done. And now we just need to move on, see what else is next.
There's only a few things left in this half of the greenhouse, and then we move on to tomatoes. Well, the next few buckets here don't really have a lot of harvesting to do, but we are going to go ahead and pull the plants. The first bucket here are some green beans. Now, funny story about these. These other plants in here are some irises that Sarah brought home from her dad's house, and she didn't have a good place to put them yet this fall. She wanted to wait till next spring, so she just put them in some buckets here in the greenhouse. And one day when we were out here picking our first round of green beans from all the plants that we planted in the spring, she wasn't looking, so I stuck some green bean seeds in this one tub just because I wanted a fall harvest of green beans. So a few weeks later, she comes out here, she's like, there's green beans growing in my irises. That's why, because I planted them. So I got some fall green beans. Just a few plants, but enough to satisfy my hunger for some green beans in the fall. But they're about done. They're not even blossoming anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick them or pull the plants or cut the plants. I'm not going to pull them so that we don't injure her irises. And then the next pots here, there's 4 of them here. These are cucumbers. This is one of the plants that I've decided that we're going to try to limp through this first frost. There's a good chance they won't make it, but if they do, we might get another few weeks out of them. There are some cucumbers to pick, just a few, not a whole lot, but these are some nice, small, eating, snacking cucumbers, so we'll pick those. And then after that, we've got some okra here. This was an experiment that I did this year. These are a dwarf variety of okra, and they actually did okay. The problem is, and I didn't realize this at the time, is that they're a hybrid, so I can't save seed from them. So instead, I saved seeds from the dwarf ones that I planted out in the garden this year, and those are what we'll be planting from now on. So we're just going to cut these. I'm actually going to use a loppers because these are pretty tough. And I don't think we're going to replant these tubs until next spring. So we're just going to cut these here, and then we'll just top these tubs back off in a few weeks with some fresh compost.
Okay, well, we found a few cucumbers. This will keep Kevin busy with snacking cucumbers for a little bit anyway. So we're moving on to the zucchini. This was a second planting of zucchini, and it was doing really well. I harvested probably a half dozen or maybe 10 of them, and then it looked like they started getting powdery mildew or some kind of virus or something. So there are 2 of them on here yet that we'll pick, and then we're just going to get rid of these plants. Here's a small one here, and then there's another kind of small one hiding in here. The good thing about planting zucchini this time of year for us, or a month or 6 weeks ago when we planted these, is that there are no squash bugs that bother these in the fall. So that was very helpful, but obviously something else got them and they grew but then kind of died back very quickly. But I was very happy to get the extra zucchini from them regardless of whether or not they lasted a long time. So now it's time to pull them out. It was a good run for them, the second planting of the year.
Well, on to the tomato side of the greenhouse. Pretty much this entire side of the greenhouse this summer was tomatoes, except for these first 4 buckets right up here at the front, which had basil in there, which has basil in them. We're not going to worry about those just yet. So for the tomatoes, today what we're going to do is we are going to harvest all of the red tomatoes that are left, all of the red cherry tomatoes, and all of the red slicing and paste tomatoes. But I made a last minute decision. I just can't do it, you guys. We can't pull the cherry tomato plants just yet. I'm going to leave these here in the off chance that this frost gets pushed back another week or so. I'm just going to give them a chance to keep growing.
There aren't many green tomatoes, but we will pick those. I'm going to look and see if there are some recipes that I can find to use some of those. We're not big fried green tomato people, so that's not really an option for us. But what we can't eat, we will give to the pigs, and they will absolutely love it.
Right.
So we'll pick the red and the orange ones, you know, those that I can see are getting a little bit of blush, and we'll ripen in the house. We'll pick the green ones separately. We'll take out all the tomato plants. We'll probably just get rid of the basil plants too quickly while we're at it. And then all of the plants will be out of here for the year.
The trees, they are singing to the tune of a song, and the wind is gently ringing the bell that brings the morning, welcome of the dawn. The voice of the robin, the call of the dove, the red leaves are falling, the barn owl is calling, welcome of the dawn. The dogs will be howling in the early morning light.
Taking this one too, hold on.
Happy to be out in the ending of the night, welcome of the dawn.
Let me cut that. Okay.
The nights are turning colder, soon the falling of the frost, soon the summer will be over. You feel the change is closer at the welcome of the dawn. The trees, they are singing to the tune of a song, and the wind is gently ringing the bell that brings the morning, welcome of the dawn. Though the warm days are over, they are not forever gone. Like the dusk brings the night, the summer brings the fall. It won't be long till harvest comes, the morning breaks, the welcome of the dawn. Daylight is calling, welcome of the dawn.
So we're done with all of the harvesting. Kevin and I harvested these tomatoes, so cherry tomatoes over here, and then a mixture of some slicers and paste tomatoes here. There are some that were kind of orange and some that were just starting to get a little bit of color that I know that they will ripen in the house. We also harvested a nice sized box here of green tomatoes. I looked back in some of my recipe histories and I did find a recipe that I was remembering. It is a curried pork and green tomato sauce, like that you eat on top of rice. We'll probably eat it on cauliflower rice. So I'm gonna dig that out and make a bunch of that, probably for the freezer, with some of these green tomatoes. You saw our zucchini and cucumbers before, and all of our peppers. It was a really great last harvest.
Well, the remaining tomato plants are all ripped out. What a huge change the greenhouse has undertaken today since we started this morning.
Now we still have a little bit of work to do in here, but it's not going to be today.
Right.
We've got sweeping to do. We're also going to top off all these buckets with the compost that we have. And then we're going to get ready to do some winter planting. We haven't decided exactly what all we're going to be planting for winter. It's not going to be an entire greenhouse full.
No.
We know that.
We've learned over the last few years that really over winter what we enjoy growing is lettuces and some other greens. And really that's about it. They do really well in here even with no heat. And we can at least have something fresh to eat all winter. But you guys, it's also kind of nice to live with the seasons and say, during the winter, we just need a little bit of downtime. And it's easy, especially when you have a big greenhouse like this, that it's easy to stay busy all year round. But we are trying our hardest to learn our lesson as far as that goes.
Also, we've done a ton of work all summer long growing and preserving food in the garden and in the greenhouse and stuff. And now is really the time to be able to enjoy all of our hard work from the summer.
Right.
So we have a ton of veggies and things to eat. So we need to eat those. But we do really enjoy having fresh greens and fresh salad almost every day in the winter. We get our fill of that in the winter.
Right. And we certainly are already looking forward to replanting all of this next spring.
Absolutely.
And all of those new raised beds. It's going to be such a blessing.
And we're so glad that you guys have come along with us to, plant all of these things in the spring and clean this all up and harvesting throughout the summer and next spring, all of the planting. It'll be so exciting.
So you guys, whether we like it or not, the first frost is going to be here before we know it. Are you guys ready on your homestead? Are you all ready for winter?
Maybe you've already had your first frost.
Right, a lot of places actually have. I know where we grew up in Wisconsin, they've already had their first frost. So, it is what it is. It's kind of a bittersweet moment.
Yes.
What we always hope for here in Missouri is that we will have a nice long fall, because that is always just a great time of year to get a lot of last minute projects done before it gets really cold.
You guys, if you're enjoying videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And remember that the best way you can help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.